Hey there, Stafford Crossing. Pastor Dave here with another Q&A video for our Ask It series. The message this past Sunday focused on issues of gender and sexuality. You know, how does our faith intersect with these things? What does the Bible say about these things? How do we understand the issues? How do we respond to people who believe and live differently than we do? The response to this message has brought up several conversations with people, good conversations that have brought up some follow-up questions and comments. And I just want to touch on a couple of those here for us in this video. One thought that I've read about and then also came up in conversations with people goes like this. How can love be wrong? Right? That someone who has genuine, heartfelt, real love for another person of the same gender, how can that love be wrong? That it feels so right, and we elevate the value of love so much. How can we tell them that their love for a same-sex person is wrong? And in fact, it feels wrong. The wrong thing feels like telling them they can't have that relationship, that they have to abandon that relationship, that they have to ignore that genuine, heartfelt love for the person because it's not acceptable, right? That feels wrong. And this is exactly what we were talking about, that when we encounter things in life that do not align with what God's word has said, we have to decide, which will we elevate? What will we give primary importance to? Will we elevate and give primary importance to our experiences, the things we like, the things we want, even the very heartfelt, genuine feelings that we have? Will they be primary, or will it be God's word? Will we elevate what God has said in the Bible over our experiences and even genuine, heartfelt feelings? Will we then submit to what God has said, or will we set aside what God has said in order to give primary importance to our experiences and genuine, heartfelt feelings, the way we wish things to be? And this leads directly to the question of, if we do that, if we set aside God's standard and make our own, where do we draw the line? All right. And if we set aside God's objective standard and we create our own, we create the situation where we have no basis for excluding anyone or anything else. God has said there is one acceptable practice for our sexuality, one man, one woman in marriage. Now, if we broaden the scope of acceptability to include homosexuality, same-sex relationships, at what point and on what basis do we exclude anyone or anything else? The door is thrown wide open. Now you're thinking, that is just not going to happen. That's worst case thinking. You're just stirring up fears of what, might happen. It's never going to happen. It already is. Within the last year, we have had politicians running openly as pedophiles. I don't think they won their election, but they were running as openly as pedophiles, advocating that pedophilia should be accepted as another, quote, normal sexual orientation. A TED Talk was given about a year ago in Germany, advocating that pedophilia should be another accepted sexual orientation. Now, there's probably a small number of people in the world that would agree with this, that would advocate for this. There would be a much larger number of people that say, no, that is not right, that is not acceptable. But if we are setting aside God's standard, if we are creating our own standard of what is acceptable by including same-sex relationships, we have no basis for excluding anyone else. We have no basis for saying, well, we don't like what you like, and so therefore pedophilia, it cannot be acceptable. We don't like what you like. Therefore, I know you have genuine love for your puppy, but you cannot marry your puppy. We have no basis. If we've already set aside God's objective standard, we have no basis for excluding anything else that anyone else wants. And this creates a very dangerous situation and dynamic. And it highlights why we must stick to and stand on God's word as the only foundation of right and wrong and what is acceptable. We have to subject and submit everything else, all of our experiences, all of our desires, all of our genuine, heartfelt emotions must be submitted and subjected to the standards that God has set. Now, I admit that doing that, submitting to what God has said, going against what is in our hearts at times, our genuine feelings and desires, that is painful. And that can be difficult. That can be hard. It can create suffering in our lives. And I don't have all the answers of, how a homosexual person lives that out. And I certainly don't understand what that experience feels like. All I can say is that the Christian community should be open and ready to walk alongside someone who has same-sex attraction, but is willing to submit to God's teachings, so that we can encourage them and we can help them and we can walk alongside them. We don't know that experience. We acknowledge that it's hard and it may cause pain in your life, but we want to walk alongside you and be a part of your journey as you learn to submit that part of you to the teachings of God. And we can do this together.